Today's video, we're going to ask the question, was it worth it for us to buy a 44-foot toy hauler for full-time RV living?
When we were first getting going, we'd never driven a rig before. We got a 44-foot toy hauler. Why would we do that? Why would we go so big? Well, for us, it was pretty simple. We both work full-time still, and we needed two separate office setups. So a lot of people do the one big long desk and they work side by side. That wouldn't work for us. We are both on Zooms. We're both could be talking at the same time, and that would just really not work. So we needed to have separation, and we wanted to have room for our college-age daughter when she came back, so she could at least have, at the time we thought she was going to stay with us a lot more than she's staying with us now. So we thought we were going to have her all summer, so we wanted her to have some space. And so having her bed in the garage of the toy hauler made a lot of sense at the time.
Yeah, people often ask us, do you guys have any toys? Well, yeah, we do. We don't have a, like a golf cart or a side-by-side or motorcycle or any of those other really fun things that guys like me would like to have. But we do have two pretty cool e-bikes that we do put in the garage. I have a boat motor, a 5-horsepower Honda that I actually have an inflatable boat that I put in the back of the truck. So we have toys, but we mainly use that toy hauler area as an office space, and that's really the main reason that we bought it.
Yeah, and it gives us more storage. So, with a regular fifth wheel, having that garage area to, just throw like miscellaneous things that really don't have a place in the bay, we can put them in there and then pull them out when we get to our location. So it gave us an opportunity. And the toy hauler, you can, we're pulling it with a dually, so we can take on a little bit more weight than most people, so we can have more things. And maybe that's good and maybe that's bad, I don't know, but for us it's a pretty good move.
Now, another big turn on for me, now this particular model is sort of unique. I'm sure we'll bring some images up on screen, but we actually have a patio on the side of the RV in addition to the patio that also goes out the back that becomes the ramp.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched our full tour, we're not going to do a tour on this. You can watch the video. We'll link it and put it in the description and all that good stuff. It goes thoroughly through. So if you're like thinking about a toy hauler or Alliance or, the side patio kind of situation, go and watch that, because we're not going to go into that kind of detail today. We're really more about, was a toy hauler the right move in the first place?
Yeah, and the reason I like that, though, the reason I brought it up is because when we were looking at these things and I thought about my office being in that back space, when I saw this particular one, I saw that we could actually put both those patios down and it was going to let in so much light. That was the one thing, because I didn't want to be in a situation where I felt sort of like cooped up and I felt like the mid bunks, not that they don't have windows, but I felt like it would make me feel more enclosed.
Yeah, you're definitely enclosed in a small space in a mid bunk. But the side patio, again, for us, for this toy hauler, that was it. It let so much light in. Most toy haulers don't quite have the space, and if they do, it doesn't feel like they have as much space, because we have these patio doors that lead into the garage and the kitchen, and that light just lets even more light in and it feels more spacious. So for us, that was a good move, as far as feeling like we went from a sticks and bricks house of sizable, it was a nice size house, sold everything, that we're able to go to a unit that made us still feel comfortable. We could still work. A lot of people, if you're not working, you're out a lot more than we are. We're in during the day quite a bit. So this particular toy hauler really met that need very, very well. The next thing I think of when I think of this toy hauler is what most people might want to know is, was it worth the money? Toy haulers do cost a little bit more, especially, the nicer, higher end ones. I don't know if you call it that, but
yeah. And this has 3 axles, and it also has 3 air conditioners. Yes, it's big, which also means that you need a big truck to tow it.
Yeah.
So we pretty much knew right out of the gate we're going to need a dually. So we bought an F350, and we also bought it at the end of the pandemic when the prices of the RVs were at an all-time high, and the prices of the trucks were also at an all-time high, and you had a hard time finding them.
Yeah. And it was one of those where, I mean, sure, we looked at the numbers. We knew what we could afford, what we couldn't afford. And we had the decision to make. We knew we were paying a little bit more than we thought we were going to pay. However, when we decided we were going to do this thing, we were going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to be smart. You have to know what you can afford, what you can't, especially in the situation we're in now, where I did get laid off and we lost some income. And we've talked about that in other videos. I'll link it around. But, you know, we were able to change the way we camp. We went boondocking a lot more, and it was fine. But was it worth the cost going with something more expensive, bigger, the toy hauler?
Well, we bought new too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
We bought a new toy hauler from Alliance. Actually, we bought it from what is now Blue Compass.
Yeah.
The RV dealer. We actually bought it at the Tampa RV show in 2022. Spring, maybe. It's all a blur.
Is it?
I
think that's right.
I think that's when it was. And we also bought the Ford F-350 new. We happened at the time, they were very hard to find, and we just happened to spot one at the Ford dealership. It was down the street from our house. Literally made an offer, bought the truck that night, and pretty much paid what they're asking for it.
Yeah.
But do I regret buying new? Absolutely not. Because, I mean, Alliance, it's our first RV experience, but Alliance has been a great manufacturer to work with. It's not that things don't go wrong. Things have went wrong. You can go back and look at some of our other videos. We did not have frame flex. We did have an issue with the frame, though, that they fixed at no expense to us. They also fixed a whole bunch of other things on the RV whenever we were when they had it in the factory. Yeah. We actually flew back down to Florida to go on vacation, came back up to Elkhart, picked it up. But let's be honest, it was a hassle for that to happen, but it's a new RV. They took care of it. Now, the Ford F-350, it's been awesome. Yeah. We love that truck.
It's one of the nicest vehicles we've ever had.
It is the nicest vehicle that we've ever owned, bar none.
But it goes to say, would I buy new again? I'm not sure. I think there's pros and cons for both. You know, you get warranties and, you know, you're taken care of for a while when you get new, but you got to work all the kinks out. Some people would say that anything built, after COVID or during COVID is not worth it. I don't really feel that way. But I'm not comparing it to a rig that I had bought before then and the quality. We don't know the difference.
We have no means of comparison.
Yeah.
But I can say this, that an Alliance toy hauler that we bought during the pandemic, or at the end of the pandemic, that I guess must have been a pandemic build, whatever they want to call it. Maybe we're the lucky ones that really haven't had that many problems.
And maybe we'll go through some of those in a little later, just to kind of give you an idea of what we went through. But is it worth the money that we spent at the moment that we spent it and the time? Yeah, it was totally worth it. It got us out on the road, and we are enjoying every minute of it. So when it comes to toy haulers, we know length is the issue. That's what keeps a lot of people from doing a toy hauler, I think. When we first started, we didn't know, to be honest. And, the question comes up, has your length hindered you? Do you still like the fact that you went so big? Do you regret going so big? The first thing I think of is like state parks, national parks, or something like that.
Yeah, like with state parks, she was under the impression, because Darlene does all the booking for all of the campgrounds. And I remember in the beginning, she was always hesitant to do any kind of state parks or anything.
Yeah. I just listened to everybody on Facebook.
It's true. You
Don't
can only
always do that.
Yeah. And then we actually found out, because everybody was saying that, you can't get a rig that big in there.
Yeah.
And it's just hasn't proven to be the case. Because the fact is, you almost have to think in terms of how far do your back tires go, and then you have this
or your back jack.
Yeah,
really.
that will go over the end. And in a lot of spaces, you've got plenty of space past the curb or whatever, or the end of the pad to keep going, that you can extend beyond.
It's actually a really nice spot for a rig our size. We didn't really have any trouble getting in here, even with all the trees. We just pulled kind of forward into the grass there to be able to to get back where we needed to be. I picked this because I looked on the state park website and Google Earth and saw that there were no trees and we could overhang the back if needed to, and we didn't even really need to. Sometimes we can't fit or take our stuff off the patio and everything because it's so tight, but this one was nice and wide open. A lot of the other sites are backed right up to trees, so they wouldn't have that option. So this is just a tip when you're picking your sites, if you have a big rig, to look for ones who have some openings.
Really hasn't proven to be all that big of a deal, but I tell you what, it's been a big deal for us financially. I mean, be able to stay at these state parks. I mean, sometimes they only have electric and water and not sewer, but you can get these really nice places for cheap.
National parks we have not really tried to get into. A lot of times we boondock outside of the national park areas. Right now it's just too hot. In fact, that's why we're doing this video inside, not taking you outside.
It's
because
95 degrees in the Badlands today.
It is so hot. I mean, as soon as you walk out the door, you're frying. But that's why we're inside. But a lot of times we'll be boondocking instead of campgrounds anyways. So our size is just fine. And finding boondocking spots for someone our size isn't that big of a deal. You just have to do a lot more research. You know, I use iOverlander, Campendium, but I honestly, word of mouth, talking to you guys, some of you guys have sent me some great spots because we're heading into Wyoming and Colorado. So a lot of people have been sharing spots that they know we can fit. So talking to other people, going to events where you talk to a lot of RVers, you'll find out about a lot of great safe spots for big rigs. And also, like I joined some Facebook groups for boondocking, and there's one particular one that's for boondocking for big rigs. They are a wealth of knowledge. So there are resources out there. Our size has not hindered us from doing, I can't think of anything it's hindered us from doing. I mean, the only thing is there's occasionally, I mean, you really trust to have a good GPS that is not going to let you go down anywhere you shouldn't go. I think that's the biggest one.
We've said it in other videos. We're going to say it again. Do not use Google Maps because here's the reason. Because you need a unit, a GPS unit, we have a Garmin, that will consider your length and the height of your rig to go down certain highways. One thing that we haven't done yet is we haven't traveled out east. Yeah. We haven't been to like New York
where
or Connecticut.
There's tunnels and low bridges and it's older build, and so you have a lot more restrictions out there.
Yeah. So, you know, those things are important because if you were using Google Maps in a situation like that and you were kind of ignorant of doing it, and all of a sudden you came upon this tunnel, and maybe even if you stopped, you're like, that's 12 feet. I can't get under there. What are you going to do? You're going to back up? You know, if you used a Garmin or GPS unit that knew your length and your height, they would never let you go down that road.
And for us in a rig our size, I won't even drive without it. I'll tell you that straight up. We also sometimes run a backup like RV Life. We might run that as a backup as well. But, you know, you're only as good in the GPS as putting in the proper address. Because this one put in it was like a state recreational area, like a state park, basically. And I put in the whole place, so it sent us to the center instead of the actual campground.
Yeah, put the campground address in. So we literally drove right past the campground. Now, in our defense, they had this teeny tiny little sign that was like half hidden by a tree. And so, I mean, we drove right past it.
And it was in the GPS. So like when you put a name of something in a certain city in GPS, it'll pull up the addresses. Just make sure you're choosing the campground address and not the whole place address.
Yeah, because we got ourselves in a kind of a tight bind.
Yeah, it was a dirt road.
Yeah, it was not pretty. That turned I
have a little footage.
A pretty easy day into a tougher day than we needed it to be.
Ain't nothing like backing up a dirt road for a long ways. All right, I'm a little too freaked out to talk, but we've got ourselves on a road that we shouldn't be on. Long story short, we'll explain it later, but we got to back down this road. Not fun day.
Okay, so speaking of backing up, nice segue. So the other thing, of course, with a 44-foot toy hauler, not to mention the length of the truck, which I don't know, but I have to think it's 16 feet or something. I don't know that. It has an 8-foot bed, and, you know, it's a long truck too. So backing that up, you're wondering, is it tough? Yes, it's tough.
Especially
And
at first.
did I struggle with it for the first 6 months? Yes, I did. But let's talk about just the length. Yes, it is a pain in the butt. And it used to be that we used to rejoice when we had a pull through because we knew it was going to be a hell of a lot easier. Now it's getting easier.
Yeah.
So
the longer you do it, the better you're going to get. You're going to figure out, certain ways to communicate. You're going to make that work. So if you're really scared of the length and you want a toy hauler or you want something bigger and you're scared of it, you'll be fine. You're going to learn it. You're going to conquer it. It's not something that would, hinder us from buying the toy hauler again. We worked it out, kind of thing. So is the size of the toy hauler, do we ever regret that? I don't know. I don't think so. So one of the things I think people think is going to be a lot of work to have a rig this size. I think it's not that much more work than most fifth wheels would be, to be honest, other than the stuff that we pack in the garage, which is our choice to have those things, those extras. But is it a hassle to tear down and set up and
yeah it takes a long time, and that's why we only try to move every 2 weeks if possible, just because it's a lot of work, especially when it gets hot. But again, that's because we have so much stuff to take in and out.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as maintenance goes, yes, we have one more set of axles, so one more set of wheels. We have a third air conditioner, and I guess that adds to maintenance and expense.
If you're doing something to two of them, to do something to one more is really not that big of a deal. But I get the whole. We get a lot of comments of people. I'm not gonna lie, shaming us for having a toy hauler. Yeah, I think a lot of people who are comfortable with smaller rigs, simpler setup, they're way more minimalist than we are, just see us as flaunty and kind of like
you could try to shame us, but it's not going to work.
I don't really care.
Shame is a stupid emotion. I'm not going to feel it, especially from some person making a comment on YouTube.
Yeah. So, but our size is our size because this is what we wanted. This is what we chose. This is how we want to live. And as much I respect people with smaller rigs, I think if you can live in it full time and travel in a much, much, much smaller rig and totally be okay, awesome. But for us as full-time working people and doing this, with no home base, this is what we wanted for our comfort zone. And, sometimes we have hookups and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we love a resort and sometimes we're off grid. And so this rig allows us to do that. And I think the size is just fine for us. And the setup and tear down, yeah, we got things, but we like our workout equipment. Barry likes his boat. He likes to go fishing. We love our e-bikes. It's just like it's how we choose to live, and it's been great for that reason.
Yeah, and it's private time too. We do have a door that we can shut. Darlene can watch TV. She can call a friend. She can call her mom or whatever. I can go off in the back and play guitar, do whatever I want to do.
Yep.
And when this is your house, when this is your lifestyle, we live here. We don't have anywhere else to go. You do need that separation. It is nice to have that, no doubt.
Yeah. And you could slam a door if you want.
Don't do that. I would probably break it, and then we just have one more thing to fix.
So yes, the toy hauler setup, tear down, the hassle, it's all worth it.
Okay, let's talk about stuff that's broke. Stuff that has broken in our time and having it. So we've had it for about 2 years. And again, we don't move around a lot. We haven't put that many miles. In fact, our truck, which was brand new when we bought it, just got to 40,000 miles. That gives you any idea. So one big one that happened that was not an Alliance thing. It was the refrigerator thing, whatever brand this is.
Everchill.
The Everchill.
Some people call it Never Chill.
Yeah, we were only,
3 months maybe?
3 months, 4 months into it, and all of a sudden we got up one day and our refrigerator wasn't cooling. And, so we contacted Alliance, went through the whole rigmarole, and the guys had me bring out my tester, and I tested the thing and sent them the readings, and their response, the manufacturer of the refrigerator's response was, "We'll send you a new one." And I'm like, you must be joking. This thing we've only been on the road for 3-4 months.
It felt so you don't want to fix it?
They made no effort. And at the time I was like, I guess that's good. It's not going to cost us anything, but you know how much of a hassle it was to get a refrigerator, because we were on a schedule. At that point, we were like just going from
The
campground to
first
campground.
year we were scheduled out. I mean,
Yeah.
it was solid.
So we're like, when are we going to get that? How are we going to get it? It's going to come on a Freightliner. And how are we going to get it in? Or how are we going to get that one out? And I mean, it was this whole ordeal, and we ended up doing it ourselves. Looking back on it, I totally would have, frankly, made Alliance or whoever pay for it and had them send a tech and one of their buddies and have them do all the work while I sat and drank a beer.
But here's the thing. I was 2 weeks with all of my food in 2 styrofoam coolers, replacing ice in them every single night.
Yeah, Mama wouldn't have.
I'm like, no, this thing's coming today. We're putting it in today. So we did. It did come like a semi pulled in, lifted it down, set it outside. We had to disassemble this one. We actually had to disassemble the new one to get it all the way in. We took it through the back garage, but it was a hassle.
Yeah, and I actually took the old one to the dump.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I know.
But not a problem since. Yeah. So they took care of it. We were under warranty. Everything was fine. Now, if we hadn't have been, I would have been PO'd. Yeah. But
okay, so let's move on. Another thing that happened, and again, I think there was some user error here too. The black tank pulls. When we were pushing those back in, they bent. Not just once, but twice. So we actually had to have those things replaced twice. Let me caution you. Do you have any concept of how difficult those things are to replace? Well, let me tell you. I didn't do the work, but we contacted Alliance. Again, they were great about taking care of it. They have basically the situation is you call a mobile tech. And that's another thing. We talked about it in other videos, but we have never, ever taken our RV to a dealer.
Yeah.
We haven't spoken to the dealer since we bought this RV from them. Like I said, half the time I can't even remember who they were.
Yeah.
So we are not ever probably going to take our RV to a dealer to have it fixed, because that's just not how we roll. We hire mobile techs. They come to us, and so far our experiences have been fantastic with them. They came, they fixed the black tank pulls against twice. The first guy did it, really struggled with it, but I saw what he was having to deal with, and I was like, oh my God. I would never, ever want to do that.
I think it was positioning of it too.
Yeah, it was tough. So, moral of the story, what we've done ever since and been super careful about is we spray. I use T9, the Bow Shield T9. Love that stuff. I do not use silicone spray or WD-40 or stuff like that. And I spray it on there, and then I make sure that my hand is flat when I push it back in. And I'm very careful about it, because those things can bend so easily, and that hole that they're going into is, I mean, it's just, they will bend, and they do not bend back. Yeah. They will not bend straight.
Once it's bent,
it's really screwed.
Yeah,
I hate the way those things are designed.
Yeah. And we've looked into the electric ones, and a lot of people are like, you gotta get the electric one. All right.
No, they cost way too much money. I am not, because we have 4 tanks. And they're like $250 a piece. I am not spending $1,000 on, and that's not installed. Yeah. So I'm thinking, no.
Just do it right. It'll be fine. But again, these were annoyances, sort of our fault, sort of maybe not the best setup for the poles, especially where they're located. I think, I've seen some people have their poles in the actual wet bay area, so it's up higher. It makes a lot more sense. You can control that a lot more. But, not a huge thing. Now, the other things that have gone wrong were our fault. An awning got blown up with a rogue wind. That wasn't our fault, but
it was strapped to the ground. We had those things that we actually have it up now. We love it. It's that shade thing that straps to the ground. It was drilled into the ground, and that wind came up out of nowhere.
So it's just one of those things of life. It happens. You have it on a regular house. You have it on an RV. Some of the probably the most serious thing, and we have a whole video on it, was the crack that formed in the corner of our bedroom slide. That was really scary, because it was right at the time where we're starting to hear about frame flex, and we didn't really know what it was. In the end, they repaired it. It was more cosmetic. They reinforced the welds. They did everything. They took the whole front cap down and made sure there wasn't any issue. And that was in early March that we had that. And we have not seen a sign of any problem, nor could you even see where they did the work. So,
but we did have to go. We were basically, when we determined our course of action was going to have to be, travel back to Elkhart. Inevitably, we're like in freaking Southern California.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It was
an ordeal
for us to go back
So
home.
did that make us happy that, some people would say, well, that's the quality of the build? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean,
Alliance didn't build
the frame,
the
yeah.
frame.
So but it does have something to do with how they put everything onto the frame, which if you follow Grand Design, they're talking all about
There's
it.
all that talk about
yeah,
it.
but for us, and I know that there's been a bunch of people, not a bunch, there's some louder voices in the Alliance groups talking about their cracks and how they have multiple and they've all come back, but a lot of people haven't had that. So I don't know, I don't think it's an Alliance issue. I just think, especially us putting the miles on this kind of a rig like that we have, you're just going to have things happen. We have the attitude of, that was a pain in the butt. It did cost us a lot of money to have to travel that far to have that fixed. But we live in this thing full time.
Yeah.
We're going to get it fixed we had the option of going to someone more local to where we were. I called around. I was not comfortable dealing with any of them. They didn't seem to care. They couldn't give us any guarantee how long they would have the rig. And when this is your house, you make the right decision. And to me, going to Alliance was the only option.
Yeah, and we went on vacation. So
yeah, something. But as far as other things that have gone wrong have been minor. So one of the things that we did to make the toy hauler work better for us is we modded a few things. I think making it your own as a full-timer is very important no matter what kind of rig you have. The first thing that we did was we completely changed the garage to a living space. Yeah. So putting carpet down, making it feel like another room and not a garage was really.
We put a rug down. It's not a carpet.
Yeah, it's a big area rug, and we just cut it to go around the little corners that it didn't fit. So.
Yeah, I still use the L-track, which is a cool thing. I didn't know what L-track was until we started. That allows me to strap up the boat motor and strap up the bikes. So, but we still leave the rug down. Mm-hmm. But when we set everything up, I clean everything out of there, vacuum, dust, do the whole bit, and I turn it back into a bed or a room, an office essentially.
Converting the garage into our living space was huge for us. It gave us more of a feeling of a home, and then we can still put the stuff in there on move days. We don't pull the carpet back like some people do. We just leave it. But we're not putting a motorcycle in there, so it's different.
No. Another huge one, when I first started, I had the standing desk that I worked from at home. And I had that. It was this desk and had this big standing desk thing that we had bought on Amazon that was real top heavy. It was a pain in the butt to move that thing. I used to have to strap it down. Once I didn't strap it right, it fell over, and it was a big mess. So one of the best mods that I ever made, and I got to give a shout out to my friend Carl, I think, hooked us up with this.
Yeah.
He was the first one I had seen to do this. So we took the, what do they call those things? I always call it the wrong thing. Yeah, it's kind of like
the bench seats. Sorry.
The bench seats. It's kind of like reminded me of it had a table too.
Yeah.
It had like these bench seat things and a table.
It's great if you want to keep it to play cards. If you want
to play cards, play Monopoly or something like that.
If you're going to use them, we didn't use them.
But we had no use for it, so we got rid of the table. We took those bunks and we literally just unscrewed them. They're heavy though.
Yeah.
If you do that, remember they're heavy. We'll show this. We'll show you a video of it. We'll remove those and bought this desk. Basically, it's a big flat piece. We put it on both sides. It's my favorite mod. Yeah. Use it every day.
Yeah. And then we did a similar thing. So the dinette that was in, the kitchen area, we knew first thing that we did was take it out because we knew my desk had to go there. So I have a regular desk from home still in there. I think looking back, we probably could have kept the table and turned it, but it wouldn't have been as big as the desk I have now. So I don't think I would have been super happy with that. And
that's one sacrifice that I have to say that it's kind of a bummer. It is kind of a bummer not having a kitchen table. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just want to sit at a kitchen table and eat, because we pretty much, we eat 100% of our meals sitting on the couch.
Yeah. So there was a hard kind of thing to let go, but we needed a desk area, and that really was the only other place to put it.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. So if you have a fifth wheel, you might be able to have both. You could probably have a desk next to, take out one of the seats, the couches, and then have the desk and the dinette, which would be nice. But in this toy hauler setup, that was the only option. But it's worked out really well. I mean, I'm comfortable there. The only thing that ever happens if he needs to come in and make lunch and I'm on a Zoom, that sometimes happens, but it's really not that big deal. I blur the background anyway, so it's the other things. I mean, we haven't modded a lot. We did replace our heavy glass doors on our shower with the Nautilus shade kind of, and we like it.
That has been a great mod. Mm-hmm. One thing that I didn't know until I unhitched these things, those doors that come stock,
it's the 3-panel ones.
Yeah, those things are stupid heavy.
Yeah.
And I mean, enough where it was a struggle for the two of us to get it out of the camper. And we actually pitched it into this big dumpster. But wow, that adds a ton of weight. Whereas this Nautilus thing,
weighs nothing. Super
lightweight.
Yeah. So that was a mod, and it still lets the light in. I didn't want a shower curtain because I don't like the feeling that it enclosed feeling. The shade has allows light through, so it just never feels dark in there. So that was for us a really good mod. Which brings me to, would we buy another toy hauler? What do we think? I think we would. I mean, if we're both in this working position still, I mean, I'm not working for a company right now. I'm freelancing and working on the channel, which let me just tell you is a full-time job and then some. But when we don't have to have, we both have dual monitors, like we have a large office setup. When we maybe aren't working as much and we could have we don't need the offices. We could work on a dinette or maybe just have one office, one desk, and the other person could sit wherever. I would consider going smaller for that reason when we're at that point in our life. And I think that's the thing. That's it. When they say the average person gets like 5 different rigs or something like that throughout their lifetime. But that's it. When you have a family, you might need one rig. When you're working, you might have another rig. When, maybe you decide you want to go and do the small thing for a while to hit those national parks, to go up into Alaska and things like that. But it's a progression. But would we buy this Alliance? So we have the Alliance 42 V13. Ours is a 2022. Would we buy this rig again and do everything the way we did it?
Yeah.
Yes, we would. I think Alliance is stellar. I think it's a great brand. I would buy another Alliance. Do I think there are other great brands? Sure, but we just have experience with Alliance. But the toy hauler choice, I think if you're just like, I'm scared about the size. I was scared about the size. When we drove that thing away from the dealership, it was a lot. I remember going, oh my, we really went big. Like, this is crazy. And maybe I would suggest if you're just a part-timer, sometime go smaller and work your way up to it to full time. I don't know.
But as far as, I drive it. So driving it down the road is no big deal. Now, granted, a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have a Ford F-350 dually diesel Super Duty.
You trust the truck.
This truck is a great truck. And I will say, I cannot imagine pulling this with anything other than a diesel. The diesel braking, the engine braking as you're going down with this massive toy hauler on the back. I mean, that is just, I can't imagine like actually applying my regular brakes to try to stop it along with the trailer brake and all that. It just, so you have to have the right truck to pull something like this. I'm not a truck expert. That's not my thing. I just made the determinations like, we're going to get a dually and that's just what we're going to do. But as far as just driving it down the road, the thing is, it's like when you pull off the highway, you're not going to be able to go into places where it's like, unless you know where you're going and for sure that you're going to be able to fit, you're pretty much going to drive off the road, go to a truck stop, and then go back out, or go to a regular rest area and go back out. Where the big semi trailers can go, you can go.
Yeah.
But other than that, you're probably better off not venturing there. Like if going into a shopping center area with a bunch of cars driving around and not sure if you can make it around that corner and all, that's what stress is made of. So I'm telling you, so that's kind of what you're in for when you have a vehicle as big as this. Think of yourself almost like I'm pretty much driving a big rig.
Yeah. I always felt comforted when I see semis because I know if they're there, then I can be there. So that was always at the very beginning. I'm like, oh, there's a semi. Okay, this is okay, because you do get on some roads and you're like, oh wow, okay, this is okay for us to be on. So you have those moments, but again, with the GPS and the right truck and doing your homework and doing due diligence and know you've made a route that's safe. Now, if you're the kind of person that just likes to get in and go, and then you're going to have a harder time. If you're not willing to do just make sure that where you're going is going to fit and everything's going to be good. If you want that quick, let's go hop around, let's just drive and we'll figure it out later, you might have a harder time because sometimes the big spots get taken and the smaller spots you're just not going to fit. And so you do have to kind of do a little extra work. But for us, for a toy hauler, we don't regret our decision. It's been the best, choice for us, I think. Will we go with another toy hauler with our next rig? Who knows? Because it depends on what life is going to be like at that time. Again, this was perfect for us with our needs, with working. And I hope that this video gives anyone who's kicking the tires about a toy hauler or curious about a toy hauler or is like, you guys are insane for having a toy hauler. So hopefully this answers some of your questions. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.